Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. On July the 1st, I tweeted this chart. The reason? It showed 40 Celsius being reached in the UK during the middle part of the month. A complete outlier at the time. A very, very unlikely scenario, in other words. Not to be discounted, but really just for interest. Well, in the days which followed, more and more computer model runs started showing similar things. And in my update last week, I talked about the possibility of a new UK maximum temperature record being set. Well, not only was one set, but the old record got absolutely hammered. 38.7 Celsius, only recorded 3 years ago, not long at all, at Cambridge University Botanic Gardens. It was superseded by many readings yesterday. At the top of the table, Coningsby, 40.3 Celsius, and a number of others were also above 40. I was rooting for Gringley on the Hill to be at the top and to become the record holder. Such a fantastic name, but it wasn't to be. Maybe it will have its turn in the future. At the rate these records are being set, I wouldn't put much money on Coningsby staying there for too long. Time will tell, of course. Well, back to the immediate future and what is in store. Will the heat return during the next 2 weeks or not? Well, as I've hinted, things have turned somewhat cooler now. The really hot air has been pushed into continental Europe. I'll take a look at the air mass profile in a minute. But at the outset, 18 GMT, Wednesday the 20th, there are heavy showers in parts of southern and central Britain. It's tending to be drier in the north, but there is more of a northwesterly flow beginning to become established. And in the short term, not a great deal changes. High pressure from the Azores keeps things mostly dry in southern and central Britain, but in the north, there is a greater risk of showers or longer spells of rain. As we go through the weekend, though, it's staying dry in southern and central areas, but this area of low pressure is pulling up some very warm air ahead of it. Temperatures could well be rising again, but there's quite a lot of uncertainty about the exact track this will be taking and how far southeastwards these outbreaks of rain will be pushing. You can see it's a wet picture here in the northwest in particular. Then into the early part of next week, and it's a similar sort of scenario, but cooler air returns southeastwards again over all regions. By the end, though, the Azores high pressure is building northeastwards, keeping things mostly dry across England and Wales. More unsettled still in the northwest. Quite a mixed bag there on the whole, but I think not a great deal of rain in the south, which I'll look at a little bit later. The air mass profile. To begin with, this is the really exceptionally warm air which brought the records yesterday. That has now been pushed into continental Europe. There could well be some new maximums recorded in parts of Scandinavia. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But over the UK, it's still above average. The yellows here indicate that. Cooler air to the northwest. If I run this, what we see is that cooler air pushes southwards in the short term across all parts of the country, but then into the weekend, as that area of low pressure comes into play, it pulls up another wedge of very warm air. So this would suggest values could well be climbing through Saturday and Sunday. But as I say, there's just some uncertainty about how far southeastwards the rain associated with this will push. Then the cooler air returns early next week, but by the end there are some indications that the Azores high pressure will be building northeastwards again, possibly therefore becoming warmer in the longer term. Now, just to compare air mass temperatures, which were experienced on Tuesday the 19th of July, so record breaking or very close to it here. On the right, the forecast values for Sunday the 24th, when it has the potential to be very warm or hot in the south and east. But you can see they are much lower than the ones experienced yesterday. 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, very respectable at about 1,500 meters above sea level. suggesting that down at the surface, values could reach the upper 20s, low 30s, but nothing like these, which we saw, these record-breaking ones that affected the UK on Monday the 19th, Monday the 18th and Tuesday the 19th. So to have a look at the prospects for the temperatures down at the ground level, a number of charts. Thursday the 21st, cooler than recently, still perhaps in the mid-20s in parts of the south or southwest, but generally low 20s. And as you go northwards, the value's slightly lower. Moving forwards to Friday morning, the nights are going to be significantly cooler than they have been. Good news for sleeping. These are minimum values, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s in the south, single figures there in parts of the north. Through the weekend, as I suggested, it's probably going to be turning warmer. Saturdays, 27, 28 in the southern and central region, so probably actually feeling very pleasant compared to what has just gone. Even in the northeast there, low 20s. Sunday morning, values 16, 17, 18 in the south, so probably quite a warm, muggy night on Saturday. Again, not comparable to what we've just experienced, but not ideal for sleeping. Then in the afternoon, this could well be the warmest day in this particular spell. 31, 32 maybe in East Anglia, the southeast. Cooler again as you head northwestwards. So nothing like what we've just seen. And by Tuesday, the temperatures are taking a dip once again, 25, 26 in the south, the southeast and East Anglia. Still respectable for the time of the year. In fact, actually quite warm, but very, very different to the heat wave which has now broken. The MOGREPS ensemble shows a similar pattern. The chart here for Peterborough, temperatures dipping in the short term. Then through the weekend, Saturday the 23rd and the 24th, is a clear upwards trend. Some of the runs approaching 30 Celsius by the 24th. 25th is quite interesting because there's a big spread there. One or two are keeping the warmer air in place, and if anything, values are going up. But on the whole, most of the runs are showing it turning cooler by the 25th and in the couple of days which follow it as well. That downwards trend continues to become established. Rainfall. Days 0 to 5 here from the ECM on the left, the GFS on the right. These are deterministic models, so snapshots rather than ensemble-based probabilities. Reasonably consistent, the wettest conditions in the northwest, but perhaps the ECM showing significantly more rain in Wales and southwestern England than the GFS chart. Probably worth pointing out, though, that both have low values in central and eastern England, so really the drought continues there. Days 0 to 10, the totals have continued building in the northwest, but central and eastern England, in fact, much of the southern half of Britain, hasn't had a great deal more rain, if any at all. So, unfortunately, I think there are going to be ongoing problems with it being very dry in southern and central counties in particular. Not an issue, though, of course, in the northwest, where it looks like there will be quite a lot of rain. So, how do the deterministic models compare with each other at the end of the first week? Here is the GFS, Wednesday the 27th of July, the Azores high pressure beginning to build northeastwards across the UK. Here's the Canadian model at the same time, coolish north or northwesterly flow moving down across the country, high pressure sitting further to the southwest. The German icon, this has a high pressure building towards us just like the GFS did. The European ECM also has high pressure building northeastwards across the UK. Finally, the UK Met Office global model, a similar scenario here with high pressure having a lot of influence. So all in all, reasonably good agreement. As ever, the details are varying, but the signal is for high pressure from the Azores to be having a lot of influence across the UK. So potentially dry, especially in southern and central regions, more mixed in the north. Just one thing at this point I think may be worth mentioning, because I'm often asked the question, which of these models is the best? Well, the quick answer is that the verification statistics suggest the European ECM is at the top of the pile. But in all honesty, there really isn't that big a difference between most of them. They all have strengths and weaknesses. That's why I think it's worth taking a quick look at them all together just to see whether there's a level of consistency there or not. I think that's probably a more important thing to do rather than just picking one out and saying this is the best or discounting another one because perhaps it doesn't verify quite as well. Anyway, that's the week 1 period covered. How are things looking during week 2? As ever, at this range, it's all about trends and probabilities. But with that in mind, here is the 16-day GEFS plot for London. Air mass temperatures across the top. There is quite a clear signal this week. To begin with, most of the individual runs are close to or just a little below the thick black line, which is the 30-year norm. But the trend is then upwards, potentially becoming warm again. And there are a few runs which are going to very high values. There's the 20 Celsius marker, and towards the end, I think 3 climb above it. Remember that 20 Celsius at 1500 meters above sea level can translate to a very, very high values down at the surface in the summer months. There are possible constraints, for example, cloud cover and rain, but if the sun shines, 35 Celsius would be a distinct possibility. Again, exceptionally hot. But those runs at this stage are in a small minority, not a likely solution. But as we've learned already this month, don't discount the possibility. Rainfall across the bottom, very, very few spikes indeed, mostly dry. The drought in southern counties goes on, if this is correct. Going up to Glasgow to see the view in the northwest. Well, air mass temperatures again start a little bit below the 30-year norm, then climb above it, so possibly warm for a time. Later on though, there's quite a big spread, some significantly above the norm, some below it. Overall, close to that average. Not a signal at the moment, at least, for that warm weather in southern counties to make its way all the way up to the northwest towards the end of the second week. It looks like staying more mixed here. And rainfall, well, fewer spikes perhaps early on, then the number of them increases later. It would all suggest, taking those two charts together, the likelihood of high pressure having more influence in southern and central Britain, the Atlantic remaining in control in the northwest. And that does lead to the possibility with low pressure areas again sitting to the west of the UK, they could be pulling up some very warm air into southern counties. It's just something to bear in mind. It would, as I say, lead to the chance of temperatures climbing above 30 Celsius. Even the mid-30s wouldn't be out of a question, but a long, long way off. Well, here is the 2 metre temperature data table for London. The pink here is used to indicate runs going for over 30 Celsius, the very hot bucket. And although it's only 19% at the maximum until the very last day when it goes to 23, there's also quite a lot of red here, runs going for 26 to 30 Celsius. So on the whole, the warming trend is quite clear, probably very warm being the best way to describe it, with a low to moderate chance of it turning hot, at least on some days. Cooler conditions there, the light oranges, 16s to 20s, they remain in a small minority. The signal very strongly supporting above average temperatures down at the ground level in the south. But in the northwest, Glasgow, this time the oranges are dominant, the 16s to 20s. There is some of the darker orange, the 21 to 25, also some of the cooler runs in the yellow bucket, probably quite close to the average in the northwest, if this is right, compared to warm, very warm, or even hot in the south. The GEFS 10-day ensemble mean pressure chart, this is Saturday the 30th of July. It indicates the Azores high pressure likely to be having a lot of influence, perhaps more mixed as you head northwards there. An Atlantic flow really fits in with what I've been talking about. And the ECM pressure ensemble at the same time. Everything here seems to be just a little bit further south, so the warmer and more settled weather would be likewise further south, but still the Azores high pressure seems to be a big player in the UK's weather. It's really the north where things would be staying more unsettled, I suggest, if this is correct. The York mean surface level pressure data table from the GEFS, just to try and identify the trends through week 2. The yellows remain dominant, so 1,011 to 1,025 millibars. July average is approximately 1,014. Therefore, most runs going for pressure to be above the average. There's also some orange early on, 1,026 to 1,040, and it makes a reappearance there at the very end. So a reasonable signal which backs up the other charts which I've been showing. High pressure probably having a lot of influence through the second week in the southern half of the UK, less so as you head up to the north and especially the northwest. So to summarise, week 1, the general idea is for it to be changeable in the north, but often dry in the south, although even there will be some showers around at times. Temperatures near to the average in the north and above it in the south. It could become very warm or even hot for a time in the southern half of Britain. That's through the first weekend. Temperatures in the southeast, East Anglia, for example, may well reach the low 30s Celsius. Week 2, after a cooler start, it should be generally settled in the south, but it remains more mixed in the north. Temperatures are expected to trend upwards, and there is that possibility of very warm or even hot periods returning once more to southern and central Britain. So there we have it. The record-breaking and indeed historic heat wave has now finished, but there is still the potential for it to turn very warm or even hot at times during the next 2 weeks, particularly in southern and central regions, generally cooler and more mixed as you head north and northwest. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then as ever, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thank you for watching now. Bye.